Because the future expected return of crypto, it's been growing at 213% a year in returns. That's how much it makes, even though it's very volatile. Sometimes it's down 70%. Over time, you're making 213% a year. It has grown as an asset. It's gone up, I think it's 2 million% since inception. No other asset in all recorded history has ever done this. And we haven't even started. I still think there's probably another 100x from here. Not even the baby boomers got given that. The S&P didn't go up 100x since 1980. So this is the magnitude of what's there. So I'm screaming from the rooftops saying, you might be cynical. You might think you don't understand it. You might think you can't afford to play in this, but you have to listen, because this is the opportunity. You can't come back to me in 10 years' time and say, well, we missed all of that. All the rich people got richer. No, you, I, everybody else is saying, now is your time. Don't be irresponsible, dollar cost average, do all the right things, but here is your opportunity. This is the biggest opportunity I've ever seen, and I'm going to take advantage of it, and so should everybody else. This is not rich or poor. This is an every person opportunity, and we've never had this before, ever.
There was never an opportunity in history that allowed so many small guys to become wealthy independently of their background, origin, or experience. If you want to learn how to get rich with Bitcoin and crypto, Raoul Pal will tell you everything you need to know for that to happen.
Crypto, as it starts building out as an ecosystem, you start to realize that, okay, this is now the fastest adoption of any technology in all recorded human history. The internet, from 1990 to 2000, grew at 63% a year. That was the fastest adoption of any technology in all recorded history. Prior to that, mobile phones was the other one. But what happens is the internet technology and the mobile phone technology allows for these networks to be built. And once that network's in place, it's faster to build the next network. So in India, for example, they've just basically given out free data to every mobile phone in India. So guess what? Data usage is the highest in the world. And so their internet scaling becomes faster. So the internet was huge, as we all know, and it remains huge. So at 63% a year, it then flattened out over time as more and more people got adopted. So at 1997, it was growing at 63% a year, and there was 140 million users of the internet. In 2021, there are 140 million crypto users, and it's growing at 113% a year. Jeez. Double the speed. Now, this is where humans struggle. Linear numbers and exponential numbers. Because it's exponential, it means that growing at 113% a year, we're going to go from 140 million people to 1 billion people by 2024. So if you know that something is being adopted at this speed, and it's a network of money at its core, and you can buy an infinitesimal fraction of it, so everybody can buy 10% of their net worth, then everybody who takes this opportunity will probably have the biggest opportunity in history. Future expected return of crypto, it's been growing at 213% a year in returns. That's how much it makes, even though it's very volatile. Sometimes it's down 70%. Over time, you're making 213% a year. It has grown as an asset. It's gone up, I think it's 2 million% since inception. No other asset in all recorded history has ever done this. And we haven't even started. I still think there's probably another 100x from here. Not even the baby boomers got given that. The S&P didn't go up 100x since 1980. So this is the magnitude of what's there. So I'm screaming from the rooftops saying, you might be cynical. You might think you don't understand it. You might think you can't afford to play in this, but you have to listen, because this is the opportunity. You can't come back to me in 10 years' time and say, well, we missed all of that. All the rich people got richer. No, you, I, everybody else is saying, now is your time. Don't be irresponsible, dollar cost average, do all the right things, but here is your opportunity. This is the biggest opportunity I've ever seen, and I'm going to take advantage of it, and so should everybody else. This is not rich or poor. This is an every person opportunity, and we've never had this before, ever.
So if this is the biggest opportunity ever to create wealth, how do you get started if you're new?
You start with understanding money. which most of us don't think about. Then you kind of understand how we're getting screwed by central bank printing and the debt-laden economy and what it means. And then you start saying, oh, okay, but that's Bitcoin. And then what's this Ethereum business? And then you start realizing decentralized finance. And you're like, it's kind of a finance thing, but that's kind of cool because I can get yields now. I can get, instead of getting zero on my bank account for my hard savings, I can now get 6% a year. Wow, that's a difference. It's like going back 25 years in time. And then suddenly NFTs come and community tokens, and suddenly your mind is completely blown that this is not just money. It's the entire exchange, transfer, and storage of value for the internet. Whole business models are about to change massively because of what this technology unlocks. And then once you get your head around that, you're like, oh God, I can't even hold this in my mind any longer. It's so big. And that it's not just buy some Bitcoin, I'm going to make some money over time. It's actually an entirely parallel financial system and business structure for the world. And it's being adopted faster than anything we can ever imagine. The world has a history of money, whether it's backed by gold or not, where government gets themselves excessively into debt and they devalue the money. So the Romans used to clip the edge off the coins so there was less gold in each coin. And eventually people would lose faith in the coins because they blend them with silver and then blend them with copper. And, the coins were worthless because that was supposed to be worth the value of the denarii in Roman times. But governments can't help themselves. Humans, we're just humans, right? Humans are fundamentally flawed creatures and we always will be. So then we have these gold standards. The US and the UK were on gold standards. World War I, World War II, we all have to leave it because we've got too much in debt again. We've overly financialized yet again because humans love leverage above all things. It's kind of sex and leverage are the two things that drive humans for some reason. Then we adopt a new system, which has been around before, but it keeps getting abandoned, called fiat money. Fiat money is money not backed by anything. It's backed by the promise of the central bank paying it. So that's the dollar bill that we all are familiar with, and every country in the world now adopted fiat currency. But as with everything, if you're really thirsty and I gave you a bottle of water or sold it to you, you'd probably pay me 10 times too much for that bottle of water. If I give you 1 million bottles of water, they're worth precisely zero to you. So scarcity has value. That's art, that's cars, that's almost anything. Humans value scarcity for whatever reason we do. And so if you're printing too much money, you're creating less scarcity. So yes, there's money everywhere, but the money has less value. Asset is deferred consumption from the future. I buy a house, I sell it in the future, I get to retire, whatever the things are, right? We don't buy the S&P because we want to hang it up in our wall. We buy it because we want to sell it at a future date to realize money. So that means our future selves are now poorer. That's essentially what this means. That's what currency debasement is.
And this is why Bitcoin is so important and one of the fastest vehicles the world has ever seen for the regular Joe to create more money despite their background.
So Bitcoin comes along in 2008 in the middle of the crisis. It's kind of like it was perfectly prepared for this and said, Satoshi goes, hey, look at this. I can create an algorithm that only creates so much of this thing, the Bitcoin, and it can never vary, ever. So therefore, this is scarcity that humans can't fuck around with. Now, humans have this propensity to fuck around with scarcity because they're economically incentivized to do so. Here they can't. So then they become economically incentivized to own this asset because it's scarce and it cannot be changed because it has this consistent supply curve and a limited number. So Bitcoin becomes this great store of value. And it would look like gold because gold's a good store of value. It's worked for thousands of years. But Bitcoin has this other thing to it. It's a network, which gold isn't, and it's technology, which gold isn't. So we have use cases and the benefits of building a network. So suddenly it goes up exponentially in price. Ethereum's kind of like owning a part of the internet. It's, as you said, I mean, everybody has to use Ethereum basically that uses this crypto rails, unless you're just in the Bitcoin world. But everything that we've talked about, and everybody will have, even if you're not very familiar with the space, will have heard the term DeFi or NFTs or tokens. Basically, most of that is still being built on Ethereum. And as you said, the network. So what is this Metcalfe's law that you and I have referred to? Metcalfe's law is, it really started to become understood in the 80s, and then much more so as mobile phone networks started, these giant connected networks, right? Because digital technology allowed networks to connect. Before it's humans, we couldn't connect with each other in the same way. So networks connect with mobile phones, suddenly they explode in value. You know, all these phone companies, huge companies. And if you added them all up around the world, they'd be worth tens of trillions probably. We just don't even think of it in those terms because they're fragmented networks. Then the internet comes along, this free network, and everybody builds on top of it, and they create network effects. Like the most classic example is Facebook. Facebook connects us with friends and family, and in exchange, they get your data, they sell you adverts, and so you've got a bunch of people using it, a bunch of businesses now building on it, and this advertising monetization structure. Shareholders get rich. You and I get to unfortunately meet somebody from university that we don't want to talk to, that we met 20 years ago and we're now connected with again. You know, it's that. But the network that Ethereum and Bitcoin does is different. You're the owner of the network and the user. So as a user, like you said, with the NFT, you're actually owning a share of the network itself. So everybody uses it, owns a part of it. Therefore, if the network's going to get used a lot, you're all going to get rich, and the value of the network is going to go up massively. And the more people build interconnections, so the Metcalfe's law is not only just the number of nodes, i.e. the number of users, but how much they connect with each other. Well, you're seeing it because there's NFTs and there's DeFi and there's all of these applications, or the store of money aspect. These things all together, and then there's the linking of all of these, like Chainlink or some of these other protocols, Polkadot. They're linking all this ecosystems together. So I can send you $1 instantaneously, and we have no idea whether it went on Bitcoin rails, XRP rails, Ethereum rails, and guess what? We don't care. I promised you $1, you want to get the dollar instantaneously. That's interoperability, that's all coming. So this is what Ethereum is about. It's the magnitude of this network, where everybody's developing everything on top of it, and it's scarce supply. So it's seeing an even faster adoption rate than Bitcoin now, for the reasons that seem pretty clear, because it has more use cases than currently the Bitcoin blockchain does.
What is the best investment strategy when talking about Bitcoin and crypto?
The problem is with 401ks or retirement funds is nobody cares about them. You don't know what's in it. You have no ownership. You just put some of your salary away and it goes in this mythical thing that you probably assume won't be worth as much money as you hope it is. That's what that's become. And you put it in every month. Why do you do that? Well, because you're averaging all of the highs and lows over time, because markets tend to do this. Your game is to own as much as you can at the lowest possible price. But if you don't know how to market time, and 99.9% of people don't and can't and shouldn't, then you just average in over time and magic will happen. You just average a beautiful price over time. And had you done that in the S&P or anything else, you'd make money. Now, what's so lovely about Bitcoin is it's not a passive investment like your retirement fund, because a retirement fund you can't access until later. So you kind of write it off, and you know, everybody's heard that it's never going to be worth as much as it should be anyway. So it's become a bit of a pain, as opposed to something that this you own, you live and breathe that volatility, and you live and breathe those gains when they happen. And you will be like wide-eyed.
So we have talked about Bitcoin and crypto and the strategies most successful investors use. But what's happening in the future? And how should you ride this wave to ensure you get the most out of it?
You're now faced with something that really offers people enormous opportunity. You're talking a 10 for 1. I think the space over the whole space, over the next 10, 12 years is probably 100x, right? That's a whole asset class. We've never seen that in history in that space of time. But humans are humans. We go back to that fundamental flaw is we love leverage. Borrow money to buy something. So let's say you had borrowed to buy the original Bitcoin purchases, and let's say you put down half of the money. So basically at 27,000 or 26,000, you've lost all your money. Now, Bitcoin hit that. You'd have been wiped out. And you'd have had to pay somebody, and you'll have been liquidated. And then Bitcoin goes back up in price, and you'll have missed it all. That's what leverage does, because it's okay in a house, because house prices aren't very volatile. So occasionally, once in a generation, you get a 2008 thing where the house prices start moving a lot, and suddenly the people's equity in their house wasn't enough, and everybody gets liquidated, i.e. the bank says, we want our money back. That's okay to take that risk if you're cautious in housing. In crypto, this thing moves around like this. Its predictability in the short term is extremely low, unlike housing predictability. So just don't borrow money to do this. If I can get that across, then you don't care if it falls to 26,000 or 10,000, because you can buy more units at the lower price over time, and you don't care. And then when it's trading at 500,000, you'll have become extremely wealthy. It's as simple as that. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't think about derivatives, futures, options, none of it. Just stick with this simple plan. Don't use leverage, dollar cost average. Think about it as a 5 to 10 year investment, and your probability of success is going to be extremely high.
Raoul says you must be careful with leverage. Only invest money you can afford to lose, and that volatility will always happen in these markets. These are his recommendations on what you should do when that happens.
You need to expect a 50% correction in a bull market, and you might see a 70% bear market, and over 5 years, you'll have still made more money than you could imagine. So you have to accept those things. So this thing starts tanking. Bitcoin starts first, then Ethereum rolls over later, and it's all down 50%. And I've got this weight on my shoulders. I've got all of these people that have been following me. I have been telling them this, but it messes with your mind. And I pick out the one chart that matters to me, which is the adoption chart. Is anything that's going on with China and mining and this and that changing the adoption curve or not? No. So then, as you said, the relentless rise of technology continues. So la la la, I can't hear it. So I turn around to my wife and I'm like, it's fallen 50%, everybody's freaking out. And she just looked at me and goes, you are all so ridiculous. She said, you said you should expect this. Now it's happening, everybody's freaking out. And she just walked off and said, don't be so stupid, and walked out of the room. And I'm like, yeah, just, Twitter is sometimes, or Reddit, or whatever forum you're on, is sometimes your enemy. And sometimes you just need to turn that off. Right? The reason Bezos is so wealthy is because he was probably one of the only people in the world who had Amazon shares from the beginning and never sold them. Because it went down 95%.
Oh.
In 2001 too. It's had several 60% falls, and it still made him the richest man in the world. This is what exponentiality looks like. And for people who are a little more savvy, there's a magic trick to everything to keep your sanity in this, because this stuff goes like this, and then it does this, and you'll see there's like free charting almost on every platform now, TradingView, something like that. Just change the scale to a logarithmic scale. And what you'll find is, like, you look at Facebook, it goes like this. You look at Amazon, it goes like this, right? And it always feels like, I can't buy this has gone up too much. That fear that you had at 52,000, right? But that's real. You change it to a log chart, and it's a beautiful trend. And you realize it's all noise. And yes, those movements can be 50%, 60%, but it's just moving in that lovely little trend. Facebook has done that since 2012, never deviated. Nor has Apple, nor has Microsoft, nor has Google. None of these have. Not even Tesla, and nor has Bitcoin, and nor has Ethereum. They're all network effects, and they're priced in the same way. They're all exponential in nature, which we can't get our heads around until you put it on a log chart, and it makes you calm down.
And if you are not yet convinced that this is just the start of a massive opportunity, check this out.
So the system is against you. In this, the institutions are being held back by regulation and can't do it. But we're not. And we know that they have a lot of money because it's actually our pensions. And so they're going to put our pensions in this in the end. Well, we might as well make money from them coming into the market later and driving up prices ridiculously, because that is what's going to happen. Once this ETF is listed, every RIA in America is going to be advising their clients to buy the Bitcoin ETF and the Ethereum ETF, and it'll drive another $500 billion of price appreciation. You know, this is all coming, and it is the opportunity.
Want to know how you can become a billionaire with this opportunity? Please give this video a like, subscribe, and watch this video where Saylor explains the math behind it.